Today we have made it to our third unit. Our third unit is dealing with linear models, and we are going to start with an introduction or potentially a review, hopefully a review, of slope-intercept form. So, how do you graph a line using slope-intercept form? One, you locate the y-intercept, which is your B, on the y-axis, and plot that point. Then two, use the slope, which is the rise over the run, or y over x, the change in y and the change over x, to move to the next point. So here we go. Starting with identifying the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope, if we recall, y equals mx plus b, is slope-intercept form, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So m is the slope, that's a -4. The y-intercept is an ordered pair of 0 and 5. So I want us to get into the habit of writing y-intercept as an ordered pair, not just the number 5, because that is essentially what it is. It is an ordered pair, and as a high school class, your high school teachers, were you to take this class in 9th grade, the high school teachers would expect that you write it as an ordered pair. So we need to start getting in the habit of that. So this is how we get this point. Again, we locate the y-intercept. So that's at 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plot that point. The slope is actually -4 over 1. But we don't need to write it that way, but we do need to know that it sits over a 1 so that we understand that we are falling 1, 2, 3, 4 points, but then going to the right 1 point. And if we wanted to plot another one again, we would go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and write 1. And that is how we graph using that equation. Number 2, slope is a half. Y-intercept is 0, 3. So we go up 3, 1, 2, 3, put a point. From there we are rising up 1 and going over to the right 2. And again, up 1 over to the right 2. And that is the line for that. Notice that I'm not just stopping at the points, that I'm continuing beyond the points. That is because we are graphing a line, which is indicated by our arrows. Lines continue forever. If you just stop at the points, you're graphing a segment, and a segment stops, and that would be incorrect. So keep in mind that we are graphing a line that goes on forever. Number 3, the slope is 4/3, but if I look, there's nothing where the B should be. That does not mean that it doesn't have a y-intercept. What that means is that the y-intercept is 0, so it's at our origin. You wouldn't tell me that there's no y-intercept because there is. There's a 0, and 0 is a number, so we use it. Starting at the origin means it's starting in the center. And then we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 1, 2, 3. And again, from there I can go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and right 1, 2, 3. This one, there isn't a number there, but by this point we should know that there is an invisible 1 sitting in front of there, so the slope of this line is -1. And then the y-intercept is 0, 2. So we start up 2, and then from here, again this sits over a 1, we're going down 1, right 1. All right, so now we come into this one. Notice that there is no x. When it's y equals 3, the y-intercept is at 0, 3. So it's there. But there's no slope. It's not there because we don't have an m. Well, if I try to draw a line through this, I'm not going to draw a vertical line because that would mean that that was my y-axis and x would be equal to 0 because, or y would be equal, I'm sorry, x would be equal to 0 because I'm not doing anything on the x or y. But I am moving up. Because this line is horizontal or flat, a flat line has a 0 slope. Now, this one is different than the rest because this one is not in y equals mx plus b form. So because of that, we're not able to figure out what the slope and the y-intercept is at this point because the only time we can find the slope and y-intercept is when it's in slope-intercept form. So we need to rearrange this equation to make it into slope-intercept form. That means I need the x on the other side of the equal sign and I need to get rid of that -3. So I'm going to start by moving the 2x. And that gives me -3y is equal to -2x minus 3. So now the x is on the right side, but I still have this -3, and if we look, there is no number, there's a 1, but there's no other number next to the y. So I need to move that negative. So I'm going to divide by -3, and whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side, and I have to keep everything balanced. So the equation ends up being a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so 2/3 x. Negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 3/3 is 1. So this is now my equation in slope-intercept form. From there, I can see that the slope is 2/3. If I look in here, I would not have known that. The number just next to the 2 doesn't work if it's not on the right side. And I can also see that it's a y-intercept of 0, 1. Again, I would not have known that from just pulling it from the equation. So when you have an equation in this format, you need to convert it. So we start up at 1 and go up 1, 2 and write 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And that is how we graph that line. Finally on this page, the question is, what is the difference between 3, 4 and y equals 3x plus 4? 3, 4 is just an ordered pair. It's a point on a line. Where y equals 3x plus 4 is a line. So that's the difference. Just a point on the line versus an actual line.